And good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you happen to be in the world. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, brought to you here by us, the folks at Nerd Caliber. I'm Rodney Brown, the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, and I've got a wonderful roster of contributors here with me tonight. And we're going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to start with, let's jump directly across to Spider-Man.
Yes, this is Barney Zero calling in directly from the Spider Cave. We're still working on the name. Contributing writer for Nerd Caliber, social media guy, and I also do a little bit of art on the side. Got a nifty new webcomic that I just started.
Where?
It's called Codename Blackbird. I am in the beginning of a brand new arc, which I need to start drawing soon. And if you want to check it out, go to codenameblackbird.thecomicseries.com.
Awesome.
And not for this, I also have a Patreon if you could support a starving artist.
Awesome. Let's continue the flow of baldness.
I'm going to assume that means me.
Yes,
Hi,
obviously.
Greg Snyder, aka Wonder Llama cosplay and/or photography. Although, as sadly I keep pointing out here, there's been precious little of either lately. Glad to be here with you, associate editor Nerd Caliber, long time listener, first time caller. I knew I'd squeeze that in somewhere eventually. Anyway, we got a lot of interesting stuff to get to tonight. So why don't I turn it over to Gogo?
Hello, I'm Gogo Incognito. I'm the one with the hair on the head, not the beard. Not on the chinny chin chin. Anyway, hello, as I said, Gogo Incognito, and that's all you need to know to find me on the mighty interwebs. Gogo_Incognito, or you can just go and type in Gogo Incognito, and you will find my Instagram is currently very active, and I even have some new cosplay pictures going up. One cool thing I know, Greg said there hasn't been much cosplay, there hasn't been much cons, but I am working currently behind the scenes on something for Dragon Con, and I'll have more info on that next week.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Very cool. Let's throw out some welcomes here. Scroll back up to the top here. Felipe, welcome. Julio, welcome. Cherry Sakura, welcome. Midnight Compilations, welcome. Wick Plays Games, hello. Luminous, welcome to the show. Waifu Pennywise, welcome back. Long time no see, as you say. And let's do real quickly. Do we have anybody on Twitch chatting yet? Not yet. Nerd and Facebook Live, nobody there yet either. All right. So we don't have a huge roster of content to go through, but we do have some things. Some of the stuff is going to have some long discussions. Some of it means absolutely nothing to anybody except me and Greg, and we're going to start with that. Minor, really super minor update to the Dune movie, which is coming out in December. And that is, according to Denis Villeneuve in recent interviews in Shanghai, of all places, it looks like it's still coming out in December. That's pretty much it.
That's the update.
Did I miss anything, Greg?
Boom.
Nope. Done? Yeah.
Still coming out. It was an interesting article, some behind-the-scenes stuff, inside baseball stuff about editing and casting and the actors and actresses that are working with, working on the production. Anybody who's a longtime listener knows Roddy and I are both huge fans of Dune. So at this point, anything about, any little dribbles about this movie are pretty exciting. It was interesting from my perspective. We kind of knew this and we talked about this a little bit, but it was cool to see him, dive a little bit into his reasoning behind why so much stuff was shot on location, outdoors in the desert, in high altiplano type environments rather than in a massive warehouse with green screen. And just, it's hard to get the same performance out of people when everyone's super comfortable sitting in a nice air conditioned environment versus you're wearing these god awful black leather and rubber, who knows what else, vinyl still suits. You're out in 100+ degree heat. You're gonna feel a whole lot more like a Fremen warrior if you're standing around in that environment than you are if you're in a sound lot.
It's the Leonardo DiCaprio meets the bear method of
yes.
inspiring your actors. And the only other thing that I took out of it particularly was when you mentioned the editing, the fact that he is apparently having a very hard time editing remotely. Even though they can have the same screen up and his editor and he are talking on Zoom or whatever, to him it's not the same thing as being in a room and looking over somebody's shoulder and going, no, do this, do that. So, yeah. I don't think that's going to delay the movie. If anything delays the movie, it will be the fact that, theaters aren't opening up enough by December. But hey, he was talking in Shanghai, and China will be open. So
there you go. So Rodney, if they decide not to premiere it in the U.S., do you and I jump on a plane to Shanghai?
No.
If they'll take you.
No. and that's not just about the money. That's about the dying. No.
That's fine. Did you see the videos from Wuhan this week of the gigantic
pool party thing?
Party.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
That's true. So this only Greg and I are interested has turned into now 3 minutes. Pennywise says, I've seen cosplays on TikTok. Good point. TikTok is still a really active environment for people who are doing what used to be called home cosplay, where you just put on your cosplay at home and like take a couple of selfies because you can't wait for the con. Now there's no con, so that's where it all is.
TikTok con.
TikTok con. Oh God, please no. Anyway, moving on from Dune to it's going to be a tough one, folks. So I'm going to give you the basic news, and I'm just going to throw this over to people who know way more about this than me. That picture there is Stuart D. Baker. He was one of the lead voice actors on Squidbillies. I say was because he was recently fired by the creators. Squidbillies is an Adult Swim cartoon, it's been on forever. And he was recently fired because he went on a social media pretty much racist tirade against Dolly Parton when it looked like she came out in support of Black Lives Matter. So he's toast. He's gone. In case you do watch the show, that's him in the MAGA style hat. So, and I can't remember, Early Crewley?
Yep.
Curly?
I don't remember how the last name is pronounced,
Okay.
but yes, Curly is one of the leads, if not the lead, Squidbilly, which is a show that I have mostly paid attention to because I have a former friend who either is or was an animator on the show who also has been publicly outed now as a harasser, molester, and rapist. So,
Just let me, also is not the word you want to use there. Because nobody else has also in this story been accused of that particular thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, okay.
You're right. My bad. I'm taking that back. Just wanted to say that I've been following the stuff with Squidbillies for a little while, and it seems that they have a mess of trouble.
Yeah, I want to jump over here to Pennywise. Oh my God, people need to think before they talk on social media. I disagree 100%. I want these people to out themselves because I want to know that these people are scum and they're racists, and we want them gone. Fire them. There has to be public consequences for being that horrible a person. So, sorry, waifu, but yes. And so, Gogo and Greg, please, people who know what this is, full disclosure, I didn't even know Squidbillies existed, even though it's been on for 15 years, when this story came up. I saw this story last week and went, and never put it on the budget until Greg saw it and went, hey. And then Gogo said, oh yeah, I was going to do that last week. And like, okay, I guess it's a thing. So you two who know what this thing is, talk about this thing.
Go ahead, Greg.
Sure. My little bit of background. So, anybody who's familiar with Adult Swim has probably seen, if not the show itself, then ads and trailers for it. It's a very peculiar late night sort of stoner Adult Swim. I guess that's almost rhetorical to say that, but
yeah. Stoner Adult Swim.
Anyway, I personally never cared for it all that much, so it's not. I don't feel any particular connection one way or the other to the actor. I was just, there's always stories on anywhere about someone saying something stupid or insensitive or ridiculous. When you actually, I'm not going to repeat this online because it's pretty
Please
bad.
don't.
But no, if you care enough, you can look it up yourself afterwards. He first, presumably because he's not a fan of BLM, Black Lives Matter, he really laid into Dolly Parton with some pretty despicable language. And to Rodney's point, yeah, I mean, okay, cool. Think a little bit before you say stuff online. But if you're going to throw this stuff out there, there's consequences. You can't be that big of a hateful a-hole and not have people call you out on it and have a consequence for it.
Yep. Also,
I did want to add that. I did want to add that as well. I mean, I definitely am familiar with that. Watch a couple episodes. Not my bag.
Not
but,
my bag either.
It's. I mean, but this is the ilk that comes from a place like William Street. Like it's all edgelord entertainment at this point, and I'm not the least bit surprised that there are people in their ranks that have this mindset towards Black Lives Matter or Dolly Parton, because it's a lot of middle-aged millennial white dudes who are just trying to take the piss out of the media with their art. And I use it very loosely because it's ugly as sin, and I watch an episode and I'm just like,
So
what the hell just happened?
I'm not sure that it's fair to call the production company or lump them in the same category as Baker, because they fired his butt immediately and in no uncertain terms. I mean, the statements they put out were pretty clear.
This all started very soon after Dolly made a very simple but wonderfully spectacular statement when finally, when asked, finally, where does she stand with Black Lives Matter? And it is known, if you know about Dolly, it is known that she is very progressive, but she doesn't get political. And so for her to, and again, Black Lives Matter should not be political. It's about basic human rights. But in this day and age of, make America racist again, it is. So Dolly, it was important to Dolly and her whole platform to say very simply, of course, I support Black Lives Matter. And as simple as that. And so, Stuart Baker, aka Unknown Hinson, was what he's known as his rockabilly name. He could have just said, I really disagree with this and I'm not a fan of Dolly. Instead, he went off the rails and not only went on this white nationalist, racist, MAGA tirade, he insulted her as a performer, as a woman, as a human being. And when people are like, and again, I wanted to talk about this too, not only because it's like, what is going on? What are they putting? Who are these people that they're hiring at Squidbillies? This is bad. But because I live in Nashville, Tennessee, I have been to Dollywood. I go to the Smokies. I love it. Dolly is like bipartisan, really. There's one thing you can agree on basically with anybody in Tennessee, is that Dolly is an icon and a legend. So for her to also say this, big deal. And then, but yes, William Street did, once the tirades just kept coming, and then I think William Street pushed him to make an apology, which was then doubled down with, you all should be sorry for effing with my career.
Speaking of career, Pennywise asks, does this mean the voice actor's career is ruined or he can't do acting anymore? Ruined? I don't know. I would say probably. He may wind up continuing to do his comedy rockabilly music show in venues that are comfortable with him. But I very much doubt that he's going to be on, well, I was going to do national finger quotes, but it's Adult Swim. It's national. It's been around for 15 seasons, apparently. I don't know how I missed it.
Because it's not that good. I mean, you have to really enjoy watching. It's not like watching King of the Hill. This is not a King of the Hill situation.
Okay.
This is like if you took the Aqua Teen Hunger Force-ness, but you just
and put less effort into it.
Yeah, but just everyone's just a terrible redneck racist, and that's the show you're watching.
Oh wow, fun.
So
Yeah.
the whole point was that
So,
they
I mean-
said he's actually like his character.
Yeah.
That Stuart Baker is basically just like Early. It's not acting. That's him.
I mean, so just to the point about, whether somebody's career is ruined or not, obviously there's no way to know that. There's probably, he could be on One America for all we know. But this isn't someone said something kind of dumb and a little insensitive, and someone called him on it and he said, oh damn, I was really stupid, teachable moment type stuff. You don't say the kind of stuff expressed the way he did if you don't have a Confederate flag for a bedspread. Let's just put it that way. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a racist, no question. This wasn't, I made a mistake. This was blatantly laying his racist card on the table so that we all could see it. I'm like, okay, you're a racist. You're fired. You're gone. Let's go. William Rosado, welcome to the chat on Facebook Live. Princess Pastel Pink, welcome on the YouTubes.
Yes.
Yeah, so, hey, bye, Felicia. I really do hope he has a wonderful career playing, Christian colleges in the South and on One America Network.
Well, I don't think he'll be actually very welcome at Christian colleges here in Tennessee because we love Dolly.
Well, good point.
Yeah, good point.
Maybe in North Carolina.
I've been to Dollywood.
Anyway, moving on to our next topic. This is right up there. Well, it's not really right up there with Dune so much as it's kind of just right up there with not a whole lot going on here. But that is, of course, Ruby Rose as Kate Kane in the Batwoman CW series. And finally, she has come out in an interview with Entertainment Weekly to talk a little bit about her decision to leave the show. And it's mostly not really much information, kind of glad-handing. But she does make it fairly clear that there were two things involved. One, she went to work way too fast after she had injured her back. After back surgery, she was on the set in 10 days. And that's silly. And part of the reason apparently for that was because, two, she really felt the pressure of being the complete lead for the very first time in a TV show in a career in which she'd had, 2 movies and a TV show? Orange is the New Black, John Wick 2, and something else.
The Meg.
The Meg. And I may be missing something else, but of the big known things, I think that was it. You put those two factors together, and apparently it was just too much for her, and that's why she bowed out. Yeah, I don't think anybody can blame her.
Nope.
And good for her for finally speaking up about it, particularly the too much pressure thing. Yeah.
Man, I've pulled muscles in my back and I've been out of work for more than 10 days.
Yeah, you've also pulled muscles in your back and you've come work for us doped out of your mind.
But the creativity factor. It was prescription, so it was okay.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that you have an onset injury, presumably doing a stunt, we don't get into a lot of detail about it, but it almost doesn't matter. Doing a stunt on set, presumably, and injured enough that you have to have surgery, back surgery. Who knows what it was? It might have been a minor muscle tear. We say back injury, back surgery.
It could have been, a fractured vertebra where they had to put some metal in. We don't know. As someone who does have metal in my neck and shoulder, I can tell you, 10 days, back doing. I mean,
no,
that's not correct. That's. And if that was something that was, she kind of imposed on herself, again, under the pressure of, well, I'm the lead, I'm stopping production, this is on me. That's a heavy burden to bear, even if it is self-imposed. So I don't blame her at all. And I I think it's a real bummer. It really stinks, but hopefully, she said she'll be back when she feels fully healed. So to me, that's talking not just physically, but also being mentally back in that place to take on those challenges.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to her coming back in an acting career in some fashion whether it's a lead on a show somewhere or just more movies or whatever. Because she's too good not to. Waifu Pennywise said the costume is cool. We bring the image back up. And Nube Ordonez, welcome to the show. If you want to, just Google image search Batwoman, and the designs and the way different artists have handled this over the course of her comic book career, they're wonderful. So check them all out. There's some really stellar versions of this costume. Not much different than what they've got here. This is pretty close. So I think you'd get a kick out of it. Waifu Pennywise, but isn't acting in a live action movie full of a lot of flexibility and other stuff? If it's an action role, yes. But it doesn't necessarily have to be an action role. There isn't an awful, I don't think, because I've never seen all of her episodes, but I don't think she had a lot of action in Orange is the New Black, right? I mean, It's a lot of people sitting around in prisons. So
there was a lot of sitting around. I have watched all her episodes multiple times. I used to be really into that show until they went down a path I could not follow. There was a lot of sitting around and talking, flirting, looking at each other longingly. Yeah.
She did a lot of physical stuff in John Wick.
Well, yeah, John Wick. She was the primary physical antagonist to John Wick in the final battle, and or John Wick 2, and I would assume, I haven't seen it, that she also did a lot of physical stuff in the Meg. But that isn't
not really, but she definitely had more of a speaking role than she did in John Wick 2.
Yeah, as I recall, in John Wick 2, she was mute.
Yep.
So no speaking role, which would Annie would be bigger.
It makes running lines a lot easier.
That's true. Good point. And particularly, it's kind of funny for somebody who had started being really known as what's essentially a talkie drama, Orange is the New Black. I mean, she certainly can read lines, so why make the character mute? But anyway, moving on to our next topic. So that is, of course, Wil Wheaton. That was the very first PAX East 2010. He delivered the keynote speech, and I was lucky enough with a really lousy low-light camera to get a couple of pictures of him delivering that. But the news is that they have picked Wil Wheaton to be the narrator of the audiobook for Ready Player 2, which comes out in November. Continuing on, as I recall from reading this, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Greg, his role doing the same thing for Ready Player 1, right?
Correct. Yeah, he was the narrator for that as well. So it just made sense. We threw this in there because it's an interesting sequel. It's an interesting book. It's not a huge piece of shocking news by any stretch. That they brought him back for that.
Yep. So
it's fun. And it's funny, for all the crap that Wil Wheaton gets for being Wil Wheaton, he's a really, in my experience, limited as it is, he's a genuinely nice guy. I've met him in a couple of cons. The first time I met him, we bonded over our love of John Fluevog's shoes. We were both wearing Fluevogs at the time.
I love Fluevog.
You do too?
I do.
Oh my God. I've spent a lot of money on my Fluevogs over the years. So yeah, there you go.
Welcome to Shoe Week Live, folks. Brought to you here by the folks at Shoe Caliber.
Yeah, I literally just got a kick-ass new pair of combat boots from them right before lockdown. Got to wear them once.
So nobody's going to look at you and go, "What are those?"
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you. Waifu Pennywise, but isn't prison always rough in real life, like people fighting? For one, it depends on the prison. In Orange is the New Black, it was a women's prison. It wasn't minimum security, but it certainly wasn't maximum security, as I recall. And two, that's kind of a... it's certainly more violent than just walking down the street, but it's not like you see in a lot of movies where it is just all violence. And again, it depends on the prison. Oz The HBO series was set in a maximum security prison, and it dealt with a lot of the white supremacist, Aryan nation types going up against, black former gang members or Islamic.
Oh, there was everything, and I loved Oz.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if it would stand up to a rewatch, but I was a social worker when it was on, and I was working with recently paroled felons, and I found it, sometimes a fun escape, or sometimes close to life. Sometimes I'm like, this never happens. This doesn't happen.
If you know, Soledad, welcome to the show. Waifu, if you know anybody who's ever actually been in a minimum security or regular security prison, you know that they're not really that horribly violent a place. And I say that speaking as somebody who knows people who have been in those prisons. So anyway, moving on from that to, this is kind of, this is an interesting story. That is, of course, the amazing James Hong from Blade Runner. I only do eyes.
That's the one. That's the one you went with, Blade Runner.
Yeah, you know what? So I am sure everybody is going to. In fact, the reason I did this because everybody would expect me to pick his image as Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China, and he's been in so many things that I decided I wanted to do something different. Because everybody's going to recognize him in that Lopan makeup.
Yep.
And you may not remember that he was the genetically engineered eye doctor in Blade Runner, or that he was the second physical body of Ryan Reynolds in R.I.P.D., which is that image right there. So, yeah, like nobody remembers that. I only picked that one because it was filmed mostly around or actually in the office building I worked at in downtown Boston at the time. So, that was pretty cool. But anyway, the news is that Daniel Day Kim, the actor, most recently known for his role in Hawaii Five-0 reboot, has raised on a social media funding project the $50,000 that would be required, apparently, to get James Hong a Hollywood Walk of Fame star. Now, first, I didn't know that it seems like the people who are nominated for the stars have to pay for the actual cost of the star and its installation.
I did not know that.
I know that I had read some things on some, sites here and there, or on Reddit, of stars that did pay for theirs, and it seemed to be the kind of thing of, well, sometimes they weren't nominated, but they can just be like, here's some cash, for whatever organization or foundation organizes this, and it can be different because, they can say, I want a star, I deserve a star, here's why, and I'm not going to name any names, but you can easily find
Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Also, okay, RuPaul. Love RuPaul, hate RuPaul in some ways, love-hate relationship with RuPaul, but RuPaul instigated getting his own star. But I don't know if everyone has to pay for the making of it, the engraving or whatever it is, and the laying in. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but the article said that's what the money was going for, and if for some reason his nomination doesn't get accepted or he doesn't want to have the star, then the money would go to a charity that James Hong picked.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, this seems a little weird to me. I mean, it's not weird in that obviously, Hollywood is pay to play like anywhere else in the world. You get the money, you get what you want. But that seems like really blatantly, hey, give us $50,000 and fill out the nomination form, and here's your star.
I doubt. I can't imagine that, in the olden times of, the golden age of Hollywood, or that it was A, $50,000, B, I don't know. Then again, I can't say I've actually really researched it. I've just
Probably
seen
a couple $1,000 back in the day.
Yeah. No idea.
Yeah. So the gist of it is James Hong deserves a star. Get him one.
Yep.
Yeah, he does.
So I need to know.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the hardest working men in Hollywood.
Animated film voice acting, game voice acting, minor character roles, big, huge villain roles. So many different things he's been in. The hardest working man in show business, or one of them. Luminous, yes, to get a star in Hollywood, I believe you have to pay for it, but paying for it is not sufficient to get a star. Yeah, so you have to have the money, but there's a nomination process. So that's the impression I get from this article as well. But anyway, get him a star, Hollywood. Damn it.
It's interesting that what's his name? Christopher Lee is. I've frequently seen him held up as the most credited actor on IMDb, with the most film credits to his role, film, movie, TV, etc. It doesn't even come close. Just TV roles, not even like live appearances. 440 credits on IMDb, going back to 1954.
Wow.
Obviously bit parts Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yep. He's
I hope it happens.
hard working man. And that's not counting, you look through his movie roles, or his movie and television roles, and you look at all these titles, go, I have no idea what it is. Half of that is the stuff he did in China or Hong Kong that we've probably nobody's ever seen over here. It's he just works either side of the Pacific.
Surprisingly not. I thought so as well. He was born in Minneapolis.
Really?
Born in Minneapolis, raised here, went to school in Minnesota, and most of his film credits, especially after the 60s, are American. It's all U.S.
That's an amazing number of, let's call them independent movies that he's made then. And two, slap me for stereotyping.
There you go.
So, moving on from my faux pas to the latest project from somebody who, if he doesn't have, really, really deserves a walk of fame. The trailer for the Ridley Scott executive produced and partially directed HBO Max series Raised by Wolves dropped, and it is freaky. I don't know if you had a chance to see this, but the premise is, kind of actually almost lifted from what was it, The Good Mother? I Am Mother. The two people right there are father and mother. They are humanoid androids that are raising humans on a planet, not Earth, after Earth was apparently destroyed in a war. And that doesn't even come close to describing what the visual style, the horror look nature of some of this stuff. I was absolutely blown away. I found it fascinating. Aside from being just a huge science fiction nut anyway, it is a stylistic movie like Ridley Scott hasn't made in a while, I don't think. It's not a movie, it's a series. Anybody watch it? What do you think?
Has it premiered yet?
No, the trailer. Reactions to the trailer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was watching it earlier. It's hard to. I mean, you get the Earth blew up, post-apocalyptic stuff pretty straight off. Can't really glean a heck of a lot more. But the cinematography, the look and the feel are kind of reminiscent of Blade Runner 2049. Like if you took some of that production design and you made the new Aliens movies not terrible, and sort of combine them together into something interesting and unique, that's what it looks like to me.
Yep.
I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah.
September 3rd. Here we go.
Yeah, September 3rd. Yeah, so this September 3rd, September 4th weekend, like everything on the planet drops. It's yeah.
Like it.
The Boys are coming out that time. There's a game, a huge game that's being released. I can't remember what it is.
This fall as well.
What's that?
Stranger Things, I believe, is coming back this fall as well.
Yes, but no, I'm not specifically that September 3rd. I think it's in October is when Stranger Things comes back. Waifu Pennywise, the CGI is so smooth. It really is. Going to do a quick aside on CGI. If you haven't watched Project Power, go watch it. There's a lot of reasons why you should watch it. Go watch it if for no other reason than the special effects, including practical and CG effects. This guy, Ilya Chilyanov, I've just absolutely ruined his last name. I can't remember. His credits in big Russian special effects movies are legion. And somebody had the smarts to hire the guy that made all of the special effects in most of those Russian-made sci-fi movies that are known for, incredible special effects on a budget, and bring him here to make a big-budget movie. And it's shocking how well the special effects work in this Netflix film. I mean, it's granted, it's a film that should have had a theatrical release and didn't, but stop that. Springs, dang. But as a complete aside, if you're a special effects fan, go watch that movie. Go watch it for Jamie Foxx. Go watch it for Dominique Fishback. She's the female lead, plays a black teenage drug dealer in New Orleans, and is one of the most adorable, charismatic, sassy, tough characters portrayed on the screen in a long time. Wonderful job. Absolutely wonderful job. Anyway, enough about plugging my own review.
There you go. So just as a real quick aside, no official release date for Stranger Things 4, but it's looking like early 2021, so we'll have to wait a little while longer.
I could have sworn
It probably did say that at some point.
Yeah, it said it was coming like late September, early October, because they'd already filmed all the stuff.
Yeah, but I'd be willing to bet that that their COVID stuff.
Yeah. The fact that they're able to finish it, do reshoots, edit, et cetera, and get it out at all is thank you.
Yeah.
I will be honest, I skimmed the trailer. It also looked really freaky, and I do love sci-fi, but I almost feel like it's, at least the way the trailer made it look, it's almost a little bit skirting horror.
Yes.
Which I've found really, during, as we said, that their COVID really hasn't been my go-to genre.
I can see that.
I actually am totally down to watch all the zombie stuff and even play the board game Pandemic and watch Contagion and all that, but honestly, creepy, sci-fi, get under your skin, or even just straight up horror, I'm just nope.
So what you're saying is you don't plan on watching Lovecraft Country?
I will actually watch Lovecraft Country in small, manageable bites because it is so important. Because Lovecraft Country is, I don't want to butcher my little knowledge of it, but Lovecraft being notoriously and historically quite racist, and Lovecraft Country is going to bring, actually, take it from me, Byron, just so people, because I'm going to say the wrong thing.
Well, yeah, the
Lovecraft Country is,
it's definitely, it definitely turns a lot of those racist notions of old man Lovecraft on its head, because you have some very prominent black figures in Hollywood playing key roles in the show. Lisa, first one that comes to mind is Jerry Smollett. The actor who plays Omar, I forget his from the Wire. I forget his name. I love anything he does, and the fact that he's going to be a key role in the story as well. And we're going off the rails here with this.
Yes, we are. That 1,000 Yard Stare was me trying to remember his name because I love his work too.
I know what you're talking about. I have no idea what his name is.
Oh, kills me. I should know this. And I would normally go for Greg explaining Lovecraft Country because he's read it, but I think we need to move on.
I didn't know the book. Cool.
Yes, it's a book.
I've read it. Yeah, it's based on what's his name? Matt. I can't think of his last name. The author. Came out a couple of years ago. Had a lot of hype even when it came out as a. It's right in that the black nerd sweet spot, so to speak. It's fantastic as admittedly a white guy from suburban Boston. Like, it's one thing to know about Jim Crow era, well, anywhere in the U.S. It's another thing to read stories set in that era, and in this case, told from the perspective of black protagonists. You know, I don't want to use the word educational because it's fiction, but it's illuminating for somebody that has no personal direct experience with that. And it's a great way to turn, as you pointed out, it's a great way to turn the Lovecraft's notorious anti-Semitism, racism, bigotry on its own head, because the protagonists are all African American. They don't fit into any of the common stereotypes or tropes or categories that black black characters often get lumped into.
Hard.
Yeah. So really well written. The audiobook was fantastic as well. Let me put it this way. To my point about being a white guy from suburban Boston, I knew nothing about the Tulsa massacre, the race massacre in 1920 or 1921 rather, until I read this book. And it was one of those things that, like, holy bleep, this is a real thing? I have to go read this now and educate myself and understand what this is about. So, yeah, big fan. Haven't had a chance to catch the first episode yet. Tomorrow night.
So cool, and I'll expect your review soon.
Okay.
All right, moving on to this is this week's WTF. That is an image from the upcoming cartoon movie or animated movie Blazing Samurai. And I'm not making this up. It is a reimagining of Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles with anthropomorphic animals set in a samurai setting, feudal Japan. Anybody want to tackle this?
That's a big old ball of yikes right there, first of all.
Big old ball of yikes is probably the best thing.
Is Mel Brooks doing this, or is it somebody just bought the property and they're running with it?
So somebody else is doing it, but Mel Brooks is apparently actually a character, a voice actor character in it. So it's being done with his approval.
Have they
seen it be done well though?
They won't. What company is bankrolling it?
There's a bunch of stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking through here, seeing. So I don't recognize any of these. It doesn't say who the big studio is, if there is a big studio behind it. So I'm guessing it's a smaller studio. And there will be a big distributor behind it, whoever that happens to be. Because, I mean, they've got Michael Cera, Samuel L. Jackson, Ricky Gervais, George Takei, Michelle Yeoh, Jamon Honsu. Align is the producer, apparently. Do we know anything about Align? Anybody? Any animation fans?
I can't say I'm familiar.
Byron, you keep making an "oh my god" face. Oh, no. And I don't know. I guess you know what? I just love Mel Brooks, and kind of actual homage to Blazing Saddles, like, which I must have seen like probably 100 times, but just not in the past like 15 years, I don't think. But man, if it had that kind of special Mel Brooks camp with that voice talent, Rodney's shaking his head. No, go keep dreaming.
I don't see how you can do it. The comedy in Blazing Saddles, aside from the fart jokes, the comedy in Blazing Saddles is socially brutal. I mean,
yes, it's biting satire.
And the joke is you can't make something like this nowadays. Well, you can. Tropic Thunder proves that. But it's really tough. And this is supposed to be a family-friendly movie, so I don't know how they're going to be able to take anything other than nonstop fart jokes and make this into something that feels even remotely like Blazing Saddles.
And I guess I'm also misremembering Blazing Saddles because I watched it so much as a kid that I think I just got inoculated to.
I just
it used to be like parent, and then like VHS. Like first it was like record it, and then you had Blockbuster. It was just always playing. It was just always there. And maybe I've just watch it again and be like,
or maybe you watched like a recording of the TV broadcast version or something. Because when the old lady walks up to the sheriff, he says, "Good morning, ma'am," and she says, "Up yours, N-word." And
I have no recollection of that.
Even on cable, the infamous scene that people are talking about, Luminous refers to sitting around eating beans.
Right.
Layla Damone on the YouTube side said beans as well. If you haven't seen it, there's a ridiculous but well-known scene where a bunch of cowboys are sitting around a campfire eating baked beans, and as you might expect, there's like 3 or 4 minutes of farting. It's juvenile, but it's very funny.
Thinking also of a different Mel Brooks.
Oh, okay.
So Blazing Saddles, Cleavon Little is the first black sheriff in a small town in the West?
No, I do remember
okay,
that. And I do remember my parents recording it from TV.
Oh, yeah. So they would have taken out everything that made it a socially, super biting, satirical movie, including probably changing the name of Lily von Stupp, which would be a shame.
All right, then I maybe need to rewatch, at least refresh my memory before
Absolutely.
I say how much I
was going to say, the TV version is so watered down that the fart scene that I was referring to, I distinctly remember seeing it on some, whether it was basic cable or whatever, where they dubbed in the sound of horses whinnying over the fart sounds. They couldn't even do 3 minutes of et cetera, et cetera.
AMC's broadcasts were actually pretty faithful. Surprisingly faithful, actually.
Wow. That's good for AMC. I just remember that the big controversy was when it did hit some regular broadcast, they actually had to cut out the scene where Mongo knocks out a horse because it was considered violence against animals. Animal cruelty, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't hear that.
So
I mean, you saw the way the horse goes down. It's the way they train the horses to do falls in cowboy movies.
Oh yeah, no.
Obviously, he didn't actually punch a horse in the face and knock it out, did he?
No, I think Alex Karras could, but no, he didn't.
He could. He's a big dude.
Anyway, we'll see when this comes out. I would love to be pleasantly surprised and find that they actually do figure out a way to do a family-friendly way of capturing that sort of irreverence.
As someone who has reviewed a ton of bad anime movies for this site, I'm keeping my expectations low. I mean, going back to the fart joke one last time, that's what a lot of modern animation seems to be their go-to these days.
Yep. Yeah. So
from the look of the artwork, it's got a very DreamWorksy.
Illumination.
What was that? Madagascar, the Madagascar movies.
Yep.
Look and feel.
So one of the people involved here, I think it's the director, directed the latest Minions movie. So
That's not a great selling point.
yeah.
Just from the description, there's like literally a short 2-sentence description. Look at that photo. I mean, that's classic DreamWorks.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's aimed squarely at kids. It strikes me that the only carryover from Blazing Saddles is a sheriff goes to a town where he's not like the people in that town, and he has a hard go of it.
Cats.
It's a dog sheriff in a cat town.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, moving on because we got two more topics to go to. Let's roll on.
There's one last thing, because I just noticed this, and I gotta think that this is intentional, and probably tells you everything you need to know. The town of which he finds himself a new sheriff is called Cacamucho.
Okay. Yeah, that tells us what the level of the humor. So good luck there. All right, moving on. This has been all over the national news, not just nerd news. So you probably saw this, folks. Epic Games, Apple, and Google are in a massive. I'm not going to use that term. What else could I call it? A peeing match? Yeah, battle. An epic battle, as it were, over whether or not Epic games will be allowed to do in-game purchases that happen outside of the stores on which the games are bought for mobile devices, the Apple Store or Google Play. Both of them have said, no, you can't do that. Epic went, okay, and then just went ahead and did it anyway. And so Apple has banned the game. Epic immediately, and this is really shocking how fast they did this, turned around and sued them, sued both Apple and then Google, and then produced immediately, so in other words, they already had this in the can, an animated Fortnite-based version of a parody of the 1984 MacBook, a MacBook ad, not MacBook, Macintosh ad, that introduced the Macintosh and was a parody, or itself a parody of 1984. And the latest is that Apple has now turned around and told every single developer that runs anything on the App Store that you are not allowed to use any product from Epic, and that includes the Unreal Game Engine. Epic owns the Unreal Game Engine. So no developer of anything that will run on Apple anymore will be allowed to use the Unreal Engine. That's their response to Epic jumping really quickly in and going to the lawyers. Here's my response to this. Don't worry about it. Don't care, folks. These are three multi-billion-dollar corporations who don't give a rat's ass about you except for the money that they're going to get from you anyway, however this lays out. Whether you have to get your Fortnite on a mobile device somehow outside the Apple Store or the Google Store, you're going to do it if you're a Fortnite fan. Whether or not Apple continues to take a 30% chunk out of every dollar that's ever processed through the App Store, those developers are still going to be paying whatever Apple wants them to pay because they have a locked-in platform for Apple devices that you can't get around. If you want people to play stuff on the Apple devices, you have to use that store. Unless you want to jailbreak your device and put Google on it, in which case you've just voided your warranty and you can't get it fixed. And no Apple owner will void an Apple warranty ever. It's the dumbest tempest in a teapot where Fortnite fans and Epic fans are getting all up in the Apple face saying, Apple's awful, Google's awful. They're all awful. They're all equally awful, and none of it's going to matter to you once they settle. This is Marvel and Sony all over again. Money is going to win. Yep. And you gamers, us gamers, everybody else, mobile gamers, you'll all be fine.
In the words of Mr. Crab, the money is always right.
Bingo. Anybody got a dog in this hunt?
Nope.
I mean, all I can say is this is is, I said it in the group, but this is like dividing by zero. End times, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria, mass nothingness. Luminous, sounds like the big winners are the lawyers. Bingo.
Oh, how smart. Very well done, Luminous. That is clever, on point, and correct.
And waifu Pennywise, wow, they're greedy. Bingo.
Yeah.
I
So
wish...
Here's the eye-popping number that tells the story you need to know. Apple's services division, which includes other stuff other than the App Store, but predominantly revenue from the App Store. One quarter, ending in June, $13 billion in revenue, with a B. That's one quarter. That's not profits, obviously. That's revenue. But yeah, I just read that Google. I mean, to what you were saying a minute ago, Apple is poised to become the first company with a $2 trillion valuation.
Yep.
They're this far away.
And if you think Epic is the little guy in this fight, well, technically they are. I mean, compared to Google and Apple, yes, they're not a almost $2 trillion valuation company.
Yep.
Fortnite alone makes billions for Epic every year. That's not counting any other games that wind up on the Epic Game Store, which, by the way, they spent millions to make exclusive, even though they're suing Apple for being anti-competitive. How's that work?
So here's, my take on this, because I work in this industry and I know a fair bit about this, is that I think it was telling that Epic had their lawsuit ready to go 8 seconds after Apple had a tizzy.
And the ad.
This is floating it out there. The only thing, and I don't think this is likely to happen, but the only thing that could potentially happen here that would be good for the four of us, anybody who's on this call, anybody who plays video games, is if this does go to trial and some judge says, yep, you know what, it's grossly anti-competitive. Apple, you can take a piece, but you can't take 30%. You can't block people from charging in-app, which, forget about Epic, a lot of other game companies, a lot of other app companies have said for years that Apple is choking the life out of small developers because of how much they mandate you give them, and that you can't independently make revenue. You can't sign up and pay for something like Skype through Apple. If you download it on your phone and you sign up, you have to do it in the app there, and it goes through Apple, and they take their 30% of your recurring fees. So again, not likely to happen. There's too much money. This will get settled quietly behind the scenes. But the best case scenario would be if a judge said you can't tell people they can't charge in game and let the independent developers work their own way.
Yep. Yeah.
Won't happen.
Yeah, won't happen. Something will shake out, and it'll be, least awful for all companies involved, which means it'll probably be most awful for all players, users, fans, etc.
No matter what.
Yeah, the one thing I wish I had really thought of, and if you want to see one of the best individual or specific analyses of one part of this whole thing, go watch Jim Sterling's take on this. Is the use of a specifically anti-fascist message, which is what 1984 is, and therefore what the original 1984 Macintosh commercial was, and in this case they were calling the IBM PC monopoly fascist, and now Epic is essentially calling Apple fascist by using 1984 as their metaphor. That's the most crass, horrible way to use the fight against fascism at a time when people are in the streets fighting against fascism in this country.
Yep.
Again, I wish I had thought that. That's Jim Sterling's take on it, and
Yep.
more power to him.
Good point.
Um,
I mean, it's a little ironic coming from Epic, which is not, a mom and pop developer. At the time this ad first came out, Apple was a tiny little, 20 people in a garage company versus IBM, the juggernaut of IBM. That David and Goliath aspect made a lot more sense back then. But, in a little bit of fairness, I mean, that message doesn't resonate in 2020.
no.
But
It's extremely
Apple,
predatory.
the way they have structured their services, the way they've structured their app store, etc., it's consolidate power to Apple, period.
Yep.
Which you can easily argue is one of the kind of building blocks of it's corporate fascism after a fashion.
Waifu Pennywise, what is fascism? Wow.
Oh.
So we're about to wrap up our last topic, and that is way too deep.
Really.
So I would recommend a number of YouTube channels: Philosophy Tube, Jack Saint. Gosh, who are some of the others? There's some really good descriptions of what the definition of fascism and how it has developed throughout essentially it's a 20th century phenomenon that goes back to ancient Rome. So, all right, maybe not. It would take way too long to describe it here, Waifu Pennywise. So please, but do educate yourself about it.
Do not just simply go to Google or your search engine of choice and type in what is fascism, because you will just get ads upon ads upon ads upon ads to try to steer you towards one political candidate or another. In this case, follow what Rodney says. Go to trusted sources on YouTube. Listen to Black and brown voices. That's what I recommend. It's do educate yourself.
I recommend going to TikTok.
I'd stay away from TikTok. And Kyrgyzstan is another really good one on YouTube. Anyway, moving on.
Wife, we don't apologize for asking that. That's
absolutely.
If we had more time, I'd be happy to. There's no way you could do it even in an hour. We'd be happy to draw the broad strokes of it. Always happy to talk about stuff like that, and the four of us have strong opinions on the subject, so you would certainly get an interesting overview from four opinionated people.
Yeah. So Hitler and Nazi Germany was a fascist government. Mussolini, his partner in Italy, was a fascist government. Look, that's a good place to start to know what fascism is. All right. Moving on to, actually, this kind of relates to fascism. Not the news about this, but so you might be wondering why those wonderful kids there are angry. Now, in story, they're angry because the Fire Nation tried to take over the world. The reason the news that they're angry is because the original creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender were deeply involved in the making of the upcoming Netflix live-action adaptation series until they weren't last week. Out of creative differences with Netflix. They are no longer involved. They state very clearly they hope it will be something that's watchable and enjoyable, but it will not be what they envisioned at all. And that is just absolutely sad.
And terrifying.
And terrifying. Avatar: The Last Death Note.
Oh gosh, yeah.
In case anybody remembers that adaptation.
I was thinking when it was just live action version Netflix. It's like, no, why though? Besides money,
money.
It's a money grab.
Well, yeah, it's a money grab, and like everything, it's like, oh look, this is a super popular property, so we don't have to risk coming up with anything new and innovative. And then they decided to come up with something apparently bad and innovative that Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko didn't like.
Mm-mm. Um, I definitely want to dive right into this because as someone who is a fan of the lore and the world that this franchise has built, this kind of flies in the face of its message, of its many messages. Because I mean, I'm going to refer to them as Bright because I can't remember the names entirely. What Bright created was like this whole idea that this whole idea of like flying, like of fighting against like oppressive regimes, or in even corporate power, even like corporate powers they did in Legend of Korra.
Yep.
And we and the fact that they're walking away from this speaks volumes about how how nervous I am about the future of this. This is not the first time they've done this. They walked away from the Last Airbender movie when they saw it wasn't going to be their vision.
Now I'm going to pause right there for a second because Waifu Pennywise asked specifically about that. What about the other Avatar live action? Is it good or trash? The only other live action was the M. Night Shyamalan movie, and it's generally considered to be one of the most garbage adaptations that's ever been done. So I don't know if you want to go watch it. So
if
Byron,
you're a masochist,
if you're a masochist,
I was going to say, if you're kind of feeling like you hate yourself, you're having a really bad self-esteem day, and you want to hate on something else, go watch that movie and take all that internal negative feelings and just dump on that movie. It's a hate watch, basically.
you can also do it as a drinking game.
oh God, liver disease in 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
So, like Byron was saying, this, the things that are in this original series, just look at these two, or this group of characters, and the diversity in the characters, the diversity in their skin color, in their general, fictional ethnic makeup.
Their personalities.
Their personalities too. I mean, the writing as a story for essentially 8-year-olds is unbelievably mature. But the messages behind this, the Fire Nation attacks. The Fire Nation is a fascist, imperialistic government. It creates essentially its own Vichy government within the Earth Nation, similar to Vichy France, sympathizers of the imperialist conquerors, just like Vichy France was with Nazi Germany. The parallels are right up there, including the complete genocidal elimination of Aang's group, the Airbenders, except Aang.
Even like you can even see like Ba Sing Se could be an allegory for the U.S., where we have our wall up against the rest of the world. We don't want and like everyone else, the rest of the world is like literally burning, and we're kind of just like la 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 la, everything's fine.
That's true, except that I was making the comparison of Ba Sing Se as Vichy France. I mean, they are definitely placating the Fire Nation, doing whatever the Fire Nation wants them to do, and then putting up their walls and going, as long as we are make these guys happy, nobody can mess with us. We're still pretty cool here in the old Earth Nation. So it is a wonderful collection of metaphor, of allegory, of all sorts of aspects of recent modern history and society, told in this fantastic Asian-inspired story. And we don't know that the lack of that is why these two guys left. We don't know what particular creative differences caused them to leave.
But the genius of like Last Airbender is that they're not pointing fingers at one specific group. It's like it's basically saying this could be us, this could be another nation, it could be any culture. It's more like read between the lines. And for such a nuanced story to be argued over, that's really a cause for alarm.
But again, see, I just want to make sure. We don't know that that's why they're dropping out. We don't know that that complexity is or lack of that complexity is the reason they're not involved. It might literally be something as simple as changing the ethnicity of the characters, which would be horrible, of making the character writing less complex, which would be bad.
Changing ethnicity, changing gender, changing age, changing motivation, changing, like, I always think about at least how the guy who did all the Lord of the Rings things, how the Weinsteins kept being him, like, you need more girls, you need it sexy, you need sexy girls, and they're like, we'll give Arwen and Eowyn more to do. We were going to do that anyway. But it's like, what if it's something like that, where they're like, this needs to, it's like, sorry, it's like
that's how you get that's how you get Tauriel in The Hobbit.
Nemo from the round table made a very good point about this whole thing. He said, like, the best that we can hope for is that it's just okay.
I think my expectations are pretty low, but I think that isn't necessarily true. Because again, we don't know what it was that caused these two guys to leave. And it could literally be something that is a creative difference. Maybe they wanted this adaptation to be more of a continuation. And they decided, no, we're going to, just actually adapt the original story. We don't know that. They're not saying that. So we can't say for sure that it's, Netflix wanted to do something like the Weinsteins going, put in more babes. It might be, but we don't know that yet.
All we can do is speculate and see what happens.
Yep. And we will, we will at some point in the future. Apparently it's still in development. I mean, it's going to happen. Well, actually, now, who knows? Netflix may pull the plug on it, but it's probably still going to happen. But there's no indication here, and I don't think in any of the stuff we talked about previously if there was any indication of when it would happen. So I'm guessing 2022 at the earliest. Particularly with production problems that are currently ongoing. So it's a real bummer. Here's the thing. We know that if they were involved and they had creative control to a great extent, it would be much better than any other live adaptation Netflix has done. That I think is a given. I think we can all agree on that. And we know that probably it will not be nearly as good as it could be now that they're not involved. Whether or not that means it's going to be...
Netflix definitely doesn't have the best track record for animated adaptations.
Yeah, true. Well, that's true. Particularly live action. I was going to cite Castlevania, but that's not really an adaptation because it's of the video games. It's essentially all new stories around characters that existed in the video games. And it's animated. It's not live action. So, and that's it. That's our show. Luminous. Maybe Netflix wants a lot of scenes eating beans. Perfect point to end the show on, Luminous. Thank you very much. I forgot to do our plugs at the beginning. If you want to watch the finals of the Summer Cosplay Contest Series this Saturday, 6 p.m., it'll be live streamed on Nerd Caliber's YouTube channel. It'll be live streamed on The Covenator's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/The Covenator, COVINATOR. And we will do the August qualifiers, and immediately after that, we will do the finals with the 3 winners of June, July, and August. Cash prizes for everybody. I've seen the costumes for the August qualifiers. As is the case with the June and July, damn, there's some talented people out there. Waifu Pennywise, Netflix is slow, is what my friend said. I'm not sure what that means. So, let's see. Do we have anything else to promote? I think that's it for us because we don't have a whole lot of other things going on. September. As he flips up his calendar to find out when the September 11th. No, the 10th. We're a Thursday. September 10th, late in the evening. if you're watching PAX Online, the online PAX Con that's replacing pretty much all the PAXs that were supposed to happen over the fall, we will have the advanced cosplay Q&A panel. We're pre-recording it, coming up soon, with the questions you have sent in. We've extended the deadline for questions. Simply go to Nerd Caliber's Facebook page. You can see the comment. Post your questions in there, and our esteemed panelists. Wow, our esteemed panelists: Lucky Grim Creative, Bellshare, Lodame Cosplay, Colonial Armory, and Mink the Satyr Cosplay will answer your toughest problems and tell you how to fix them. And that is Thursday, September 10th. I think it's like 8:30 Pacific time, so stay up late, kids. Yeah. And I think that's it. Anybody have anything they want to plug? Any appearances? Anybody? Yeah, it's COVID. Nobody's appearing anywhere. Although we're waiting for the Dragon Con thing when you can talk about it.
Yes, next week hopefully I'll be able to talk about Dragon Con.
Yay. All right, folks, thank you for hanging in. We're a little long, and so we will be signing off. Everybody, please stay safe. Mask, wash the hands, social distance. 6 feet apart. Do all that stuff. Please don't get COVID and die. Don't go into any pool parties in Oklahoma or Wuhan, China.
Or any cons in Iowa.
Or go to any cons in Iowa. An Amazing held its con. Yeah, but that should have been on the topic. Anyway,
I wanted to bring that up.
So don't do that, folks. Please don't do that. Stay safe, and we will see you all next week, hopefully. Bye bye from all of us.
Bye.
See ya.